Was ist die Chance? Stream beenden? Nee. Perfecto. Okay, first question. Hello, can you guys hear me? That would be... nah, go away. That would be interesting to know. Just write if you hear me. Because, well, without that, a little bit difficult to make a stream. Just write, I don't know, yes. Sweet, okay, so you can hear me. Sweet, sweet, sweet. This is already pretty good. So I can kill that window. And we can start in a few seconds. So somebody can come in and check it out. Okay, that's good. That's good as well. Sweet. Okay, this stuff is working. Maybe it's not the worst idea to see the chat. Okay, chat is here. So we can start in a few seconds. I don't know, I'll just wait for most of you guys to come along. I don't know, 1 or 2 minutes. I'm already late to the party as usual. But oh well. So here, just a little introduction. We're going to do a shoot 'em up. So if you never heard of Gradius or R-Type, well, these are pretty old games. This is, as far as I know, Super Nintendo, and I guess R-Type, the first one was on the Nintendo, so this is like 15-20-year-old games. If you haven't heard about it, you don't need to, but they pretty much started good standards concerning how you can make a shoot 'em up as or a side scroll. And the interesting part, for example, if you like to know about R-Type, because this is where I'm gonna copy or just take most inspirations of, it doesn't have just one screen, because most shoot 'em ups basically you just have one screen, you have your player here, and then well, you have a scrolling. Let's see, for example, let's emulate it. Background, let's go for horizontal speed minus, I don't know, 1. And for example, what would happen? You just had a scrolling background, but not really. So basically you just have this one screen, and then you have an object which is spawning in some instances, I don't know, like those guys here or a boss or whatever. But it was just one screen, and then you had the illusion that something is happening. But Gradius did it a little different. I mean, R-Type, basically your level is quite long, as you see, and then you just place, I don't know, some enemies on the way, and then in the end you have a big boss. We can actually plant it already. Do I have a boss object? No, let's create one. Object boss, and give it the eye. Did I import him? Enemies? Yes, I did import him. Sweet. And let's put him at the very end. Wow, okay, this level is quite long. And make him a little bit bigger, because why not? Purple sprite. I just enlarge the sprite, so make him double. 128 by 128. So he's a little bit huger. Yes, that's much better. Fat eye. So this is how I'm gonna do it. Not difficult stuff today. I won't be going over too many interesting concepts, or not interesting, I mean difficult concepts, because in the end this is just a prototype, and prototyping is just, hey, some basic stuff, some movement with the player. He can shoot. These guys can move around, so they appear to be kind of intelligent, which they are not. So if you see the code inside of them, wow, that's it. Not too much. Actually, we can start it so you can see a little preview. Of course, we will build on that. So what do we have here? Well, those guys, and they go in a kind of a waveform, and this is it. Ooh, I have a double speed now. This is not good. Let's go to the background and delete that, because, well, what I am doing, I'm just basically having a camera object. Basically, this is just an object. It just looks neat, and that thing is going all the time, and the inbuilt camera is following it. So let's start with the easy stuff. So let's kill those enemies and the player. And what do we want to have? We have an object control where we just have a variable, but you don't need to have it here, it doesn't really matter. So basically this is a value which we were adding, so that thing is going to the right side. Now we're saying, hey, I don't know, add it 1, so we have a scroll speed of 1, an artificial one, and then add it to the X, and this just means that thing is going to the right. And for now, nothing would be happening because, well, we just have a thing which you don't see basically because, well, it is outside of the room. As you can see, this is outside and then nothing is happening. But what you can do, if you, for example, use the inbuilt camera of GameMaker Studio, so let's pop that guy up. So you have here viewports and cameras. So if you don't know this, GameMaker Studio allows you to use the default camera and all that stuff, which is kind of nice, but it is limited. I prefer to use my own because then you have pixel perfect camera systems, you have zooming, all that stuff, and then that thing is good enough for beginners. I would say it does most of that stuff. It's a little bit choppy, but it does work. So for example, what you normally do, as you can see, now you just have your room here. So this is just your first level. Then you say, hey, enable viewports, and then you see where the camera actually is. Then we open 0 because 0 is the first and default one. And then you say, hey, is it visible? Yes, no. So you just see where it is. And then you give how big the zoom-in factor is. So basically the first 2 parameters here and here just define how big that thing is. This looks a little bit small because, well, if you would do that on, I don't know, something like 100%, this is a very small view, and therefore I just prop it up times 3. And for example, once I start it, what you see is you see that it doesn't work. Yeah, so some stuff we need to comment out, so it actually does work. Great preparation, as it seems. Yeah, so basically what you're seeing hopefully now is that that thing is being stretched 3 times, and now it is following. And if you're thinking, but why is it following? Well, because you have on the left side here object following. Of course, if you follow nothing, then you will just have the camera then popped up 3 times the size and then nothing happening. But if you go, for example, follow something, which you normally do on the player, so you can follow the player, which is most of the time makes here sense, but for a side scroll like R-Type and Gradius, you don't really need that, because the system is that you have a static camera which is moving in a 1 speed on, well, to the right, and then nothing is happening basically with a camera system, so you don't really need to have anything fancy. And here you just define, for example, you have like 4 values. The bottom ones are how fast you are scrolling, and that scrolling would be just meaning, for example, if you are scrolling then 50 pixels at once, which is kind of fast, but it appears a little bit choppy. Therefore, if you have your own camera system, you would love those values, but good enough for me, I would say. And then these values, horizontal border, vertical border, just means at which point are you starting to scroll. So for here, for example, it is having this fixed point, then it's checking, hey, are we 320 pixels to one of those borders, and if yes, then we start scrolling, and the same for these values. So you just understand what that stuff is. Not too terribly difficult, hopefully. So this is just for the camera. So the next thing, when you're thinking, okay, so I've got my shoot 'em up, I got all my enemies and all that stuff, what do I do? So first of all, maybe you want to have I don't know, a background, and this one is kind of easy as well. So basically this is just a thing which is being repeated. If I can pop it up, so basically you just go background, just pick one, and mine is, I don't know, how long is it? It's not too long, it's like 960. So basically this thing, and I'm repeating it. So how can you do this in your game? Well, you just go, well, as you can see, nothing here, horizontal tile. So basically it's repeating that thing into infinity, at least as long how long the room is, because I made it quite long. So here arbitrary values which are 8000 by length, so as you can see, quite long a thing, and then 420 height. Of course they are not the best values, because normally you would be doing something times 16, 32, 64. This is how you actually do most of the things, because most of those values are, well, best practices for making your game. Of course you can go with some really strange, I don't know, 431.5 as a height, but that would make you lots of troubles. Believe me, better to go with values times 16, 32 and so on. So what is the, oh, hello guys. So 3 guys watching meme guy. Okay. So what do we want to have first? So basically, what am I having? I'm having a player inside the room, then a drone following it. So basically, if you have watched my other tutorials on drones, these things try to be very near to the player, but they need to catch up. So they appear to be following you with a slight delay, so it looks a little bit better. And then, well, this is just basically it. So we have our player. What can I show you? Here I've got lots of stuff. I will do some improvising, because I thought like, hey, make it a little bit more interesting. So let's go for player 2 and kill most of the stuff, because we want to build it from scratch. And will I keep those things? Let's check it out if it's not too difficult. I guess let's go first for the movement, shooting. So how does movement work? What I do, and this is actually not the worst practice. For example, if you want to have some movement in your game, then maybe you want to externalize it, because maybe you have a script, which I call script input, that you call every time, because maybe you want to use your gamepad or your keyboard, and then, well, you move your thing. And for example, this is not interesting for us. So basically what this stuff just means, it looks a little bit complicated, but it's not. It's just saying, hey, left, right, up and down in those variables. And for example, what these things just say, they return 0 or 1. So basically, if you are pressing your game pad or your keyboard, they will return 1. And if you're not pressing one of those two things, then it will return 0 all the time. And this is how you check for input from the player. And what we're going to do, because let's make it super easy, we just check for constant presses. So basically you have keyboard check, but of course you can go for keyboard check. Hello, keyboard check, and here you go. You have pressed, released, and these things are quite specific. But let's go with the easiest one. You are constantly pressing. If you're not constantly pressing, nothing is happening. I don't know, Emma. Is this stream still on? Okay, says there is some error. but it seems, oh, it is still there. Strange. It is showing me that I'm having some error, blah blah blah, Wiedergabe ID, something something, but I see it is working, so no problem. Niju Atama, I love your stuff. Thanks. I just wanted to ask if your Metroidvania tutorial for GMS2 out there. The Metroidvania is one of my favorite genres, to be honest, but that thing is, let's call it like this, it's kind of difficult to pull off because there are lots of things which you need to implement. So Metroidvania, if you don't know this is a pretty cool blending of two genres. So if you go for, I don't know, let's go for Metroidvania. Metroidvania. Okay, I spelled it completely wrong. So Metroidvania games, I don't know. Yes, you can see it's not Shovel Knight, but it's Hollow Knight, or this one is Axiom Verge. This is pretty sweet. So lots of games which blended the old the Vania games or Castlevania games, which are good by itself, and then the Metroidvania, because, well, you have the exploration of Metroid games, and then they blended together in, I guess the first one was Castlevania, I guess Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation 1, and pretty cool game. But for that you need to have the map, the exploration, and some abilities or items which gatekeep you from entering specific areas. So for example, some areas you cannot enter because you don't have the, I don't know, iconic double jump or a dash through the air. And then, for example, if you have them, then you get to other areas, and then you can unlock more and more and more, and then there is a level system baked into it. So basically pretty deep stuff. I guess I will do this because this genre is just great, and it has, in my opinion, extreme potential, the same as roguelites, because roguelites have a potential which has been unlocked by just a few games, but most of them, well, they do it the easy, boring way, because you just grind, which is okay in my opinion, but Infinity Windows. Okay, let's kill it. So this stream is actually working. So let's go back to how that is. Oh yeah, for example, if I really helped you with my tutorial, so you're definitely welcome. This is well, because I started out again, I wanted to do my own game, and then I was looking for resources, and I got really frustrated with what you can actually find, because there are some really great guys who do those tutorials, but then at some point they just end, and then you're like keep hanging dry, like, okay, so what's next, how I solve all these things, because I had some specific wishes which I wanted to be fulfilled in my own game, and then I tried to find here something and there and there, and then I thought, like, hey, screw this, let's make my own YouTube channel and just build on that. And for example, on the fly, I'm learning, because to be honest, GameMaker Studio, I didn't learn it by, I don't know, I didn't have any courses or whatever. I just made everything myself and just learned everything by myself by pulling different resources like videos and all that stuff. And then, of course, as you can see, I have my own channel, and here I simply implemented those good practices from other guys and just made my own. So hopefully you guys can follow me on this journey, and I got better in time, and hopefully you will get better in time as well. And this is how it works. So basically, if you're just consuming video tutorials or courses, this is, in my opinion, only 1/3 or even less of the journey, because how you can actually learn GameMaker Studio and all these things is by repeating and failing and failing and failing, and then at some point you get better, and then you get comfortable, and then you can do something like me. You can just on the fly get stuff out of your head, because you're having some concepts how you can make things. But let's get back to the stuff. So how does that work? Basically, just a quick thing. For example, if you don't know how, if you're quite a beginner and you're thinking, okay, you're starting with objects. Objects are containers where you hold things. For example, here, the create event, if you don't know what that is. Of course, I will do that in the Udemy course. Yes, it is coming. The comic is taking lots of time, so please be patient on this one. I wanted to do this in 2 weeks. I'm already 4 weeks in. Okay, I guess this will be... okay, I'm Brazilian, I was watching it. Yeah, I was always curious why Brazilians are watching my channel. I have no idea. The hugest audience, as far as I know, is from America, and the second biggest one is from Brazil. So, okay, but I really never understood why that is. By the way, you have some really great artists. So this, I guess Luis something, I forgot, Mendes, I guess, Mendes. He does some really great pixel art, and he was involved in Celeste. So if you Google this guy, he's doing some really cool stuff. If you are having troubles with pixel art, this guy is your way to go, because he's doing some illustrations, some GIFs, where he shows you pixel art, and this guy is just, I don't know, this guy is a true pixel artist, and wow. So if you like Brazilian stuff, you will definitely love his stuff. Yeah, concerning what he's offering for you, great guy. So greetings to Brazil. So let's go in here and let's do the movement very quick, because most of the time this stuff isn't too terribly difficult to pull off. So let's copy here and kill that and pull the player 2 into the room, so where we actually want to have him, and notepad. So the first thing, if you want to do movement, you have to do that while in your step event. So this is where you have the action where things are repeated. So once again, create event, very quick, is kind of giving GameMaker Studio, okay, I want to have those variables set up and put into memory, and then give them a value. It doesn't really matter what kind of values you give it at the very start, because after one step, so 1/60th of a second, you can actually override it, and this is happening in this step event. Of course, you have 3 step events, so step, begin, and end. And then, for example, if you want to have different things to be stacked on top of each other, and then you want to separate, you can use 3. And of course, begin step is the first one, then it's jumping to the step, and then end step, if you like. And here, what I do, I just use this script input, which I showed you at the very beginning. So this guy here, hey, are you pressing one of those buttons? So if you're pressing your keyboard, the H, D, W, you have to put this stupid or D, and then, well, this syntax, of course, there are VK, I don't know, enter, and there you don't need to do this. So for example, you can actually skip that, or VK, I don't know, left. This of course is valid as well, because here you're pressing the left button on the keyboard. But for example, if you want to do the ASWD movement, well, you have to do that already. And this is just saying like, hey, virtual key, which is just checking, hey, are you pressing the keyboard? So let's go back. We don't want that. So now the player is getting input, but nothing is actually happening. So we need to just say, hey, are you pressing one of those buttons? And if you're pressing one of those buttons, sweet, store them in a horizontal speed. So if you're going to the left or to the right, or vertical speed if you're going up and down. And for example, here, this could be 0 and 1, and this could be 0 and 1, because you can actually press both buttons at the same time. So this is not an issue. And what can you do with this? Well, quickly, you can say, hey, sweet, I want to update my position and equal it to, I use macros for input variables, because I don't want. You can use macros. I'm not the biggest fan of macros, to be honest. Macros has its functionality and it is good. It is a standard for lots of tutorial guys, but I don't use it, so I don't feel I have to. So macros, as this is a thing which you can have, but this is the part about programming. there are no strict standards. Of course, there are some patterns, and people use very specific guides and so on. And for example, but the point is, this is the beauty of programming. You don't have to. You can do whatever you like with the code, as long it does work and it's not completely really messed up and complicated, because at some point maybe you have to work with other people, and then if your coding style is extremely difficult to understand because you are some really I don't know, you do some really intricate things which makes sense for you, but for the rest of the world it doesn't make any sense, then of course some standards would be nice. But if you are a solo developer, which I guess most are, then you can do whatever you like. It doesn't really matter. Of course, in the end, if your code is extremely complicated setup, then you maybe get into some troubles, because let's say you're making your project and then half a year you don't do anything and you just jump in and you're like, oh hell, what the hell did I do here? What is that? What is this? And of course, therefore, just having some good practices is not the worst thing. For example, what are practices? Let's say, for example, you're having sprites. I could call my sprites, so these are the images, whatever I like. I could call it, I don't know, garbage 2.315, and then it would maybe make sense now, but let's say I'm returning in 2 weeks, then I don't know what garbage 2.3.5 does actually mean. Therefore, you're having coding conventions where you just say, for example, ASPR, and then understrich, keine Ahnung, no idea what actually that is in English. So basically you have a coding convention, and then I would say, okay, so what is SPR, because you have an autocorrect, and then as you can see it says it's a sprite, and this is just a coding convention you can use for sprites. Then for example OBG, then explosion, muzzle, player, whatever. And then you're having those coding conventions which actually help you make code more readable, because what you could do, this is pretty messed up, you can actually put everything in one line and it will still work, because the computer doesn't discriminate against this stuff, and then the GameMaker Studio will just say, okay, so script, and then this, and it will work perfectly. But for human beings, it makes sense to give it a little space to make it a little bit more readable, and therefore you're having first coding conventions, how you can actually, how you want to name your stuff, or your objects, for example here, RCR is just short for script, or you can S and then underscore input or whatever. You use a coding convention which makes sense for you and for most of the people. And this is a standard which most tutorial guys do as well. You don't have to do this. This is just up for you. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, well, you can do whatever you like. So here you have the freedom, which is the great thing about programming. You don't have to be like super tight on things, just make them logical for you and for hopefully most of the other people. So once again, to iterate, we initialized a few variables, and then we're saying, hey, let's check if we're pressing something. So this is how a script works. This is just checking all the time, and then we are saying, hey, is this 1, or this is maybe 1, and then we store it in H speed, V speed, and for example we're saying, hey, let's update our H speed, and for now this could be 0, 1, which is okay, but let's give it some movement speed which is a little bit higher than 1, because then we would be kind of slow. And the same thing we can actually do for our V speed, and here we will get into a problem. I'm gonna start and then you will see what do I mean by that, because for now we are moving and it's of course good. So as you can see, yay, I can move around, cool, not a problem. But as you can see, I'm pressing no buttons, but this dude is falling behind, and this is of course not what you want to have. Therefore, what you can actually do is just checking, hey, am I actually having any inputs? If that thing is 0, so basically if I'm not pressing any left or right, because this is how left and right are defined, then we are saying like, hey, then do some auto moving, which is, oh come on, here we go. Then we are just saying move speed. We just go for 1. Let's go for 1 because our scroll speed is 1. And else, and this is the interesting part here, you can actually chain things. So this is how you actually read it. So for beginners, you're having if clauses. So if is just always checking, hey, is this condition met? So is this, for example, 0 because I'm not pressing anything? Then we move automatically 1 to the right. And then else, and this is what you can chain after that, and then give it this regular movement speed which we put in here. So basically we're pressing nothing, he will automatically go to the right, but if we are pressing, then of course we are moving faster. As you can see, he's going to the right correctly, and at some point the camera is catching up, and this does work. And of course if I'm pressing my button, you can actually go faster than the regular scroll speed, which should be the default kind of speed for your ship. So to avoid this thing, for example, we just put our player in here, and he comes into the screen. Yay, yay, yay. Let's wait. And then, well, we got our game started, which is pretty sweet. So the next thing which we actually want to have is shooting. So therefore I just copy paste 2 variables, kind of easy, hopefully easy to understand, and put that into our player. So here, if you don't know what region or end region is, kind of easy. This is just so you can put things together. So this is just for your convenience. This is just making, I don't know how you call that thing in English, but you can well, pop it up or pop it, close it or open it, and then you see the code or not if you like. So what is the next thing? Maybe you want to shoot because, well, why not? So here we go into our script, and the next thing which we want to have is, I don't know, let's call our variable for shooting shoot. And then once again, we are just checking our keyboard. Let's just go for the keyboard. If we are pressing, what can we press for that? Let's go for L, because why not? Take this variable into our player. And then we go for 0, because this is the default value, so we are not shooting. And for example, what can we do? Well, we're just checking, are we pressing that thing? So here, let's go for region. I love the autofill. Add region, bam, and just come on, and call it movement. As you can see, there are some different colors, and the green color just means, well, it's a comment, it doesn't affect the code. The other stuff, well, the colors are kind of important. So this color is actually meant for scripts or for things which are inbuilt. This color is just for variables which you are using, and then, well, they are getting destroyed once the object is no more. And then, for example, these are hard values. I don't know, for example, hard values can be a number, or for example, a thing which is an object and so on. They get the red color, and the green things are basically inbuilt variables. This could be the position of the object. So these are inbuilt things once you create an object. So once you put it into the room, bam, then it gets tons of inbuilt variables. I have a video on that. And then, well, you can manipulate these inbuilt variables. This could be, of course, more than just the position. I will go into that in a few seconds. So we already covered the movement. We can move around, which is kind of neat. Let's shoot. Shooting is always great. So we're just checking, hey, are we shooting? So we say, hey, if this variable is 1, so basically if we are pressing our button here, we just say, hey, great, let's run a timer down. So once the timer has been running down, let's create then a shot. This is the first and the easiest thing. Of course, we can make a little bit more fancy schmancy stuff, which I did in the preview video, but hey, let's do the first one. So shoot timer, it is 0. So what does that mean? Just basically we are updating, and then at some point the shoot timer, which is, I don't know, 10. So basically we can actually fire 6 shots per second, which is quite a lot. Then we're letting our timer run down, and then once it is down, we just say, hey, time. So that thing is just running down all the time. Then we set it to a hard value, which is this one. This one is never getting changed. Of course, we can update it later on for pickup. So for example, if you're picking up a thing, another shot, then you can always update those values, which is the beauty. And for now, nothing is happening, and therefore we just say, hey, instance create, and then you get depth or layer, but let's go for layer because depth is the old system, which I don't want. And here, just be careful. Here you need to put in, well, where you want to create this instance, and the instance would be, I don't know, a shot or whatever. Because what is happening, because if you're saying X and Y, then it will, well, because I middle centered it, it will fire the shot from this position. But this Y position is already good, but we want to have it a little bit on the right side. And I don't know how big is that thing, 48. Let's say, I don't know, plus 12, 15. Let's go for 15 and make it safe. So we go X plus 15. Where do we want to have it? Well, on our instances here. Copy paste it because I'm a little bit lazy, and then we fire a shot. So obj, I don't know, shot. And does it already exist? Yeah, it already exists. So okay, let's check it out what's actually inside here. Animation and okay, so let's create shot 2. Make it clean, so you can see the process how I would set it up, because this is actually the easiest way how you can actually do this. So we have a shot, we assign it a sprite, so this guy here, and what you see, it has 3 sprites. And for example, if you would do it like this, it would be having a twitchy moment, which doesn't look too good. Of course, you can just say, hey, then I just used a static sprite, and then I don't know, just kill those 2, but maybe you want to have it a little bit pop up. So this is what we're going to do. So let's go into our player. First of all, let's create it. So shot 2. And let's check it out. And now you will see that it will twitch a lot because it doesn't look too good. So we are coming out of the screen. Come on. And we're pressing L. And now, as you can see, it's not doing too much and it is twitching a lot, which we definitely don't want. Let's check out if the stream is still working, because I am not sure about that. Is it still working? Oh, my macros, yeah. Oh, it's actually working. I don't know, I got still this error, so that's why I'm from time to time checking if there's something going on, and I have no idea why. Oh well. So what we can do is actually control our instance. So normally you can control the instance from the inside. So how GameMaker Studio and most of the programs actually work, you have objects which you define here, then you put them into the room or the level or whatever you want to call it. But then they are not objects, they are called instances, because what you need to realize for most of the games or for most of the programs is that these things on the right side are blueprints which are never in the room, but kind of copies with all their variables and all their behaviors are inside the room. Of course, this is the thing, a concept which I struggled at the very beginning of my, if I did programming, so in university, I had like instances, objects, what the hell, but it kind of makes sense because these objects are just, once again, let's call it, I don't know, an oven, and it has some properties. Then the bakery and the lasagnas and all that stuff, which are those behaviors and all that things, are getting put into the room, and therefore you actually never touch those things here. You just change the things which are in the room, and they are called instances. Yeah, hopefully that make sense for you guys. In the Udemy course, I will go into a little bit more details for that one, because I thought this concept is kind of well, not difficult to understand, but a little bit complicated, because you're thinking, okay, you got an object and you put it into the room and then it's an object as well. Not really, but if you do this a few times, then you understand. So once again, we create this shot, but we don't want to, we want to give it a very specific properties, and therefore we can just pass in stuff. But if you want to actually access this newly created instance, so this guy here, we just say var, and then inst, you can call it whatever you like, it doesn't really matter, instant, or we just call it shot. Let's go for shot and save it in this temporal variable. So as you can see, it has a yellowish color, and this means after one step, so 1/16 of a second, that variable is getting discarded, because these things are all the time around, and therefore you can change them and manipulate them and update them and yada yada yada. But this guy is, after one step, 1/16 of a second, it is gone. And now we can actually do something with it. So we take this one and put dot, and the dot is called operator, a little bit clumsy to understand, but with the dot you can actually access things which are inside this variable, which is holding all the informations, and then can access for this very brief moment the newly created shot. And then we say, hey, give it a direction, and as you can see, it is green again, and this is once again one of those inbuilt variables, which is the cool part. So you can actually access inside this dude here the direction, and direction is let's go, it doesn't really matter, 900 by 900. So what you need to understand, the direction is basically, for GameMaker Studio, this is 0, and if you go to the right, if you go up, you go 90, and because this is just how it is defined, 180 is going to the left, and well, downwards is to 70. Ah, beautiful. And therefore we just want to shoot it to the right side. For example, if you want to shoot it, I don't know, let's say something like this, this could be, I don't know, 15 degrees, 25, or if you go really like this, this would be 45 degrees, because well, that is between half. Of course, these values can go even over to 270, because then it will just divide by 270 and the rest would be your value. So just keep that in mind. For example, you can actually put in a really huge number and divide it by 270, then it will be, I don't know, one of those numbers. So you can actually update it, and this is how that works. This is for you a little bit more advanced guys, a modulo. So this would be something like this, but I'm not going to go into modulo, because this is some really messed up stuff if you go into informatics and mathematics stuff, which most of you won't be using and hopefully never have to use. It is helpful, it is useful, but it's a really messed up concept to wrap your brain around. So direction, we go for 0, and once again we want to change a few things which are inbuilt in this new shot. We want to give it a very specific speed. Now you write that with a double, and let's go for, I don't know, 5, let's for whatever. Let's start the game again, and now actually we are, come on, doing something. As you can see, it is already better. It is flying in a specific direction with a specific speed. So this is already pretty cool. Sweet. But maybe you don't want to have this twitching, so therefore we go into our shot and say like, hey, stop the twitching. Then we go under and animation, and this is a very specific event. So here you got tons of events, step, create, destroy, yada yada, and here then animation, and you can actually say image speed is 0, because the image speed is how fast that thing is animating. So 1 means just it's 100%, so basically it will do all the time like this. If for example if you would put in 0.5, it would halve the speed which you set up here. So we can actually do that slower or faster. So we go for image speed of 0, and what will happen now is a little unexpected, but you will see. So now you're expecting, okay, it will hit the last animation and then that thing will be big, but they are small. Damn. So what we actually have to do, that image number, image sprite, no, come on, image index, here we go. And this is once again an inbuilt variable. So if we are going in here, yes, you can see once again you have a speed of how fast that thing is animating, and then you have an image index, and the index is just, hey, the number. So this is 0, 1, 2, and if you're saying, hey, after we animated once, because this is, say, after we finished our first animation, go and stick to image index of 2. And now it does work. Come on, let's go into the screen. As you can see, now the big ones stay around. But for now, we are creating tons of instances, which isn't the best idea, because, well, it is definitely not, because at some point you overload your game with I don't know, after you pay 15 or 10 minutes, you create like 3,000 of those objects, or 3,000 of those instances in the room. This is a thing which maybe you don't want to do, and therefore it is a good practice. Put an alarm in here, because why not? Alarm 0. So go under events, you have different alarms. You can have between 0, so this is just the number of them. And then for the create event, let's go for, I don't know, 300. So how can you actually do those numbers a little bit more plastic for you? For example, let's say you want to have your shot being deleted after 10 seconds. So you go 10 times 60, because it will in the end make a calculation and set it to your alarm. So after 10 seconds, bam, this thing will trigger. And what do we want to do here? Instance destroy. So we kill this instance, and it doesn't say object destroy, it says instance. And this is the instance exists. Yeah, come on, go away. Instance and destroy. And what you can do, and this is the interesting part, is you can actually go and say, hey, I don't know, put in object shot and instance destroy. And this is a little tricky to understand, because if you do something like this, it will destroy all of your shots on the screen at once. So here we just say, no, let's go for instance destroy. And what it does mean, it will just destroy that shot. Of course, you can actually put in ID as well if you like. So if you want to understand instances, so basically if you are pressing your button and you're creating those shots in the room, they will get an ID. Actually, let's make it so you understand how that works. So let's go for draw. And now draw is just basically saying like, hey, maybe I don't want to have a player. I want to have something which is invisible, or a controller. They don't need a sprite, but maybe you want to have both worlds. You want to draw yourself. Then you maybe want to draw some text, or you want to draw a rectangle. You want to draw something on it because you want to. So let's go X, Y. Let's go for, I don't know, -20. So we are a little bit above. And put in ID. And now, hopefully, if we shoot, you will see that. Let's shoot. As Oh, let's go for one shot. One shot, as you can see. They are having different numbers. And what GameMaker Studio is doing is like saying, alrighty, you're placing your instances in the room to identify them. It will give them an unique ID. And therefore, you can target those things. Therefore, you can say at the end, so for example, I don't know, after the alarm is done, you can destroy the ID. So basically this thing which is being saved at the very start. Or you write it a shorter instance destroy and then it will do. But in the end, they are the same. So a very, very important concept to understand. So actually we got our shots now ready, but maybe you want to do, hey, let's make some more interesting things. Let's do a triple shot. So I don't know, you say like, hey, let's go and make a triple one. So we can actually do this. So we just copy these things because we already got a shot which is going to the right, and then we just give it a new, a new name. And then we're saying, hey, all the parameters are the same, but let's shoot a little upwards. Let's go for, I don't know, 15 degrees upwards. So once again, let's go for, I don't know, 15 or whatever, and then minus 15. So this is what you can use. Of course, you can go into minus values, no problem, or you just go for 200, 360 minus 15, so 45. So both values are valid, no problem. So we got a shot which is shooting upwards, and we got a shot which is shooting downwards here, minus 15, or if you like, what was it, 345, yep, not minus, come on. And then you will see that we're having a triple shot, and already no big deal. We are creating what we actually like, and as you can see, looks pretty good. Of course, let's delete the ID thing because this is looking ridiculous. Go away. So here, bam, not a problem. Now it is gone. Questions? Okay. Also, do you think that R-Type was made in one room since you feel that you're always going forward with no transitions? I actually checked out, if you like to understand how games work, you just go, for example, and type in Google your game, the old school game, and then tileset or image. And what I did to check out how actually R-Type works, I just put in R-Type and then level, and then for example full, and then I saw that those levels are long strips. So actually we can check that out. Let's go, come on. So let's go R-Type. Hey, come on, R-Type level image. And then, for example, you can see hopefully a strip. As you can see here, this is the, oh, here we go, come on. Bam, let's make it big. Let's make it really big. As you can see, this is the first level. So basically you're scrolling through the level. Of course, modern games don't do this because this is a way how you can set up the games which are all the time. For example, R-Type, the first level and the second level will be always the same. There is no variation, there is no randomness, as far as I understood. So everything is like hard-coded to be the same experience, and therefore at some point you're just getting better because you learn the patterns of the game, and then you're done. Of course, this is a design decision of the old school games, because they are very, very limited concerning what they can do with those graphics, with how many instances they could put in, and so on and so on. You just have to imagine that those old school games were extremely limited, and therefore those resources, I don't know, there were just a few kilobytes which you can use, I don't know, 120 kilobytes, and these are extremely small values. And if you have these extremely small values, you need to do the best of it. And therefore, they were restricted, and then they had to make some, well, concessions. I guess concessions is best word for that, how you can create this world. So for example, and therefore I just copy it. You just have this one fat room where you scroll through, and then at some point enemies will appear. So this is how that works. And the transitions are like this. For example, you're having one room. This is your level, but let's say for example you're having a second room. You just go duplicate, or I don't know, make a new room, doesn't really matter. And then I don't know, this one has go away, just I don't know, it doesn't have any background. And then for example it has a different background, and this is your second level. So what you would do, for example, in such a game, you would go from left to right. The camera stops at some point, which I need to implement. I haven't done it because it would scroll forever. And then for example, once you destroy the enemy, then there will be some explosions or whatever. Then there would be a timer which runs down, and then you do something like this. For example, I don't know, go on a step event, and at some point you just go to, and then you have room next, which is just going to the next room. Just be careful with that, because this stuff is being changed in 2.3. So at some point this will be the standard for GameMaker Studio. And then go to room next doesn't really work, or previous. Just go room number, and here it tells you, hey, what kind of room do you want to go? And then you just give the name, put it in, and then you would instantly jump to the next room. For example, if you press 1 here, I don't know, hopefully it will not twitch all the time, because now it is, yeah, this is a loop, because this is not, because I'm just jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. This is an infinite loop. So let's say we are putting an alarm, so you can actually see what those jumps are. So if you want to have a transition from one room to the other, let's go, I don't know, for 3 seconds, and then alarm 0. Come on, what do we want to put in here? Go to this room. Hopefully it does work. Must be. Come on. So we are entering this room. 1, 2, 3, and then this is our second room. This is a transition from one room to the other. So hopefully that was what you were looking for. So how GameMaker Studio work, basically you have one level, everything is getting loaded in this level, and then if you just say, hey, let's jump to the other level, or they call it room, but it is in the end the same. Everything is getting deleted which was in here. So this is how this stuff works. So everything which you saw here, your player, that thing, everything is getting deleted. But if you want to keep things around, you go for persistent. Then this thing will persist between rooms, so it will jump to the other room. This is what a controller is good for, because most games do it like this. They have a level, a controller. The controller is all the time on, so you create it just at the very beginning at the first level once, and then once you, I don't know, clear the level and go to the second one, then this thing is getting passed in. And then for example, once I don't know, a new level begins, you create a new player. And how can you set this up? Well, event, other, and then for example you have game start, room start. And for example, what you would do at room start, you would create a new copy of a new player in there. But of course you want to pass in some things, but this is I guess I'm not going to do this in this tutorial. Okay, do you think since you feel you are always going forward with no transitions, I'm not sure what you define as a transition. Transition is normally defined transition between levels, but maybe you are thinking of a different transition. So if you can clarify that, that would be neat, because I guess transition is something else. At least for me, because transition is for me just going from one place to the other, and normally it's just referring from jumping one level to the other one. This is just basically it. So let's go into the fun part. Maybe you want to have a drone, and here we copy paste it because this one is a little bit more complicated. Not really. Nah, not really, as it seems. This is good. Right now we don't need the copyright. So let's say you want to have a cool drone which is flying in front of you, so you can actually shoot from it. So basically the player is just for the controlling and the drone is following. So what we can do, and this is same-ish with here, we just create our drone at the very beginning once we are in the room. So basically we have our player 2 and we just say, hey, drone 1, let's create it. And for now the drone 1 won't be doing too much because I killed all the stuff. Yeah, let's kill it. And what can we actually do? Well, we can say, hey, stick near to the player. So we go and create a step event and say like X is the same as the X position of the player, the same for the Y position. So basically it is sticking near to the player, and this is of course a very sticky thing because it won't be let's go for, I don't know, 40, it doesn't really matter. So if we do it like this, this thing will be extremely sticky and it appears that it is part. So for example, if you want to do segments, as you can see now, this thing always sticks around, but it doesn't really move or seem to be following. It seems to be attached like instantly where the player is. And this is a thing which we can actually change. So we go for lerp values, and if you don't know what lerping is, lerping is getting some values back, and you just have 2 values, and the first one is, well, your own, and then for example the player, and then of course you need to define, because command tooltip, show yourself, what you need to have is the amount, and I don't know, I call this a variable, you can call it whatever you like, how much to stick to. And what lerp is doing, it's doing an interpolation between 2 things. And if you don't know what an interpolation is, for example, you have pixel interpolation. So for example, let's say we are doing that thing here, and then let's nearest hard edges automatic. So for example, if we are changing the sprite, and then as you can see now it is crisp, it has some well-defined values, and now let's make it smaller, I don't know, 20, and now here you have some pixel interpolation because it is trying to say, okay, I need to make it smaller or bigger, and then if it doesn't have a 1-to-1 ratio concerning how the pixels are, then it's trying to check out, okay, what kind of pixel was here and what kind of pixel was there, and then it's trying to make an interpolation between pixels, and this is called pixel interpolation. And therefore sometimes if you use that in games, then you have a blurry image, because this is what it is doing. It is trying to grab a color and the nearest colors which are around, and then it's just mix and matching it together. Maybe make it a little bit more obvious. So let's say, for example, you're having a color like this, and the next color is like this. Come on. Then what is trying? It's trying to do an in-between color between those two, and I don't know what would get out. Red and blue, yellow. No idea what it actually would get. Then it's trying to get colors in between. This is the same for lerping. It's trying to interpolate not between pixels but between 2 values, and this is your original position, and then the X position plus, I don't know, let's go for 25 because we want to have it a little bit in front, and then how much? Well, Bam. Then we will play around with this value here. Why don't I just put in, for example, 0.3 in here? Because you just change it once here, then it will be applied. This is a good practice as well. You don't have to do this. You can always put in hard values. But let's say you're having a variable which you set up at the very beginning, and then it's getting applied multiple times. Then it would really suck to change it every time in every instance where you put it. For example, if I'm having this thing like, I don't know, 25 times here, which of course doesn't make any sense. But if you were to have this, so let's go, why not? Let's make some stupid things. Then every time change 0.3, 0.3, and then you're saying, I want to have a different value, then you have to change it every time. So this is a good practice. Therefore, you put in some variables which you want to change and adapt later on in here. Then they're getting applied in your code later on. This is very crucial. For example, if you're building menus, then you're having tons of those variables in here, and then you just, I don't know, fine tune it here, just change it to once, then it's getting applied everywhere. So this is a good practice as well. You don't have to do this, but don't make your life harder than you need. So yeah, so for example here, bam, bam. Of course, our Y value is pretty good, so let's keep that around. Hopefully you don't hear my stomach. He's saying he is hungry. So for example, now what is happening? Come on. Let's go in, and maybe as you can see, it is not completely following. And for example, if you make this value even smaller, let's go for 0.5. Let's check it out how it actually looks. So as you can see, ooh yeah, it really needs some time to follow up. So the 0.3 is actually not the worst. And of course, if you put in like really different values, then I guess this will automatically stick. So as you can see, almost no change, no, you won't see that. So nah. And here we are already finished, but maybe you want to have 2 of those drones, because why not? Let's make one. Let's put in a second value, which I don't know, you can call it whatever you like. I can just call it Y distance. And what is that thing? Well, we just add that thing to our Y position. And for example, we take it here, and we say, hey, drone, and you go for var just so we have it once. I go for drone as a local variable. So this is a variable which is inside the local, I guess you call it local, local variable which is inside, and then we're creating 2 drones, so drone 1 and drone 2. And to this drone you can chain this variable which I just set, and then I don't know, let's go for, what was it, let's go for 25. Let's go for 25, doesn't really matter. Copy that code, drone 2, bam, bam, and go for -25, run that game. Now you will see that you're having 2 drones, 2 instances created, and they are above each other, which is pretty cool. So basically if you're shooting, so let's go and shoot, as you can see, sweet. But now we don't want to be shooting from the player, we want to shoot from those drones, and therefore we need to establish shooting from inside here. And how can we do this? Well, we are in our player, and for example, once we are shooting, then from where are we shooting? Well, from our drones. So drone 1 X, and let's go for just the first one. So drone 1 X and drone 2 here, I don't know, let's go for 5, I guess, doesn't really matter. And now you will see that we are creating a shot from our first drone. So here, bam, pretty neat. But maybe you want to have it from both, because why not? So let's go for shot 2, 2, 2, and then drone 2, bam, bam, and now we're shooting from both. And this is how you establish basically your shots. So as you can see now, it does work, because you actually create that thing inside your player, but on the position of those two drones. I'm seeing a new question. Hi again. Okay, hi. Yes, of course. So if this thing, the stream is too long for you, you can of course watch a video. So basically, this is the thing with YouTube. If once you do the stream, well, then at some point it will be over, and then you can re-watch it whenever you like. So if you are going out to party and meeting some chicks, do that instead, and then come later and do the watching here. So this is not mandatory. This is just if you want to put yourself into the stream. If you're having some questions, you want to have some stuff live changed or adapted or answered, so I'm here for you if you like. But these streams are just a bonus if you like to do be active in here. And we already 1 hour in and almost did nothing. Damn. So yeah, so what can we actually do? Because I actually put in some more shots. So let's kill the first player, and I show you a few things which I did in advance, and maybe that could be interesting for you. For example, this could be interesting, or this I already did. Then what is this? Blah blah blah, no set preferably. Okay, these things are not too terribly difficult to understand. So the scattershot which you saw, so it going, I don't know, like this and like this, and this shot which is going in all direction, it is not too difficult to understand. We'll just give you a quick introduction to it, but I think I like to show scattershot here. So what am I doing? I am creating all the time a shot, but give it a different angle. So here the angle is being adapted to the direction. Actually, we can do this with, come on, let's do it with our second player. Why not? So basically we're having an angle. Let's make a variable which we call angle, and say, hey, it's 0 at the start, because why not? Of course, we can set it to whatever value we like. And then, for example, every time we are shooting, so this is the point when we are shooting, we are changing our angle. So we're just saying plus, I don't know, 50. If you don't know the syntax of equals plus, so basically what this means, so let's kill it. So this is the same as plus 15. Or you write it shorter, you write it like a plus equals 15. So this is just a shorter syntax for you guys, which is a standard. And this is the same as that thing. This is just short writing. Of course, you can do that with times. You can go with minus, no problem. And normally this wouldn't be possible in other languages. For example, Java doesn't allow that, but you can actually do equals minus. Doesn't really matter. You can actually put that like this or like this. Doesn't really affect it, which is the cool part about GameMaker Studio. This is a very flexible language. What is it called? GameMaker language, GML. So this is the cool part about this language. You can actually flip-flop things. You can, I don't know, have this thing as a, I don't know, a number, and then you say like, hey, I want it to be a word, like, and this does work. You can override it and give it another value, not a problem at all. So here, a little cool part. So I don't know, let's keep it here so you can see it. And what we do, we just say, hey, direction And what you will see, that if I'm pressing my button, nothing is happening because I put in the wrong player. Let's put our old player in here. Come on. Here we go. So let's check it out. As you can see, now it will go in different direction, but you are seeing like, but the shot is not pointing at the correct direction. And this is a thing which we can actually remedy. So here I will introduce once again a new variable, or a new inbuilt variable, which is called image angle. So here, and then we set it the same as the direction. So the direction, let's say it's going upwards or to the left or upward or right or whatever. And we want to change our angle as well. So basically, if you are having a thing, which is this thing, it has a, come on, it has a, hello? Whoa, it doesn't work. Okay, so let's say we're having an enemy like this, and then we want to turn it around, and it has an image angle of 0, but let's say you want to turn it around, then this is changing the image angle, which is the inbuilt thing of the object. So here we do it here, and of course here the same for shot 2, and bam, it does work. So let's check it out, and now you will see that it turns around correctly. So let's check it out. As you can see, it is shooting in a specific direction, and the direction is the same as the image angle. Just be careful with the one thing. So let's go press F1. So we jump into the object, which is the cool part. Then here, this thing is aligned at the center, so it can rotate correctly. For example, if I would do something like this, then it would, well, you will see it now. It still looks good, but if you rotate things, make it aligned at the center. So I don't know, let's go for the player and actually make him rotate as well. So let's go for the image and our own image. Come on. Angle, nah, not alpha angle. And for example, now we are actually rotating our ship, which we definitely don't want to. As you can see, doesn't look too good, but it appears to be always in the center. But let's say, for example, we do something like this, because when you import an image, it will be aligned at the top left all the time. So this is the default value, and now you will see some really strange stuff. First of all, it's completely wrong, and as you can see, because it is well, rotating around the fixed point which you defined here. So therefore, just go middle center, bam, and then your problems are over. So let's go for a little bit of Coke. Yo, so we got our shooting ready, but maybe we want to shoot some rockets. So duplicate here. Let's check out what kind of code I have in. Okay. Bam. Alarm. So let's go for actually some rockets which can home. And for homing, you need some enemies. So let's put in an enemy ship, which for now is not doing anything. They're actually moving around, but it doesn't really matter. So let's put in some enemies. And our player now is not creating our shot, but let's say our rocket. And these things are a little bit more different, because here we want it to home, and for homing you need to understand delete, kill a few things. So first of all, you need a target which you need to home to, and therefore it could be arbitrary, but let's say you want to have the nearest target to attack because hey, this could be interesting. Then we just set up first of all an alarm. So the alarm will be once again not destroy, to destroy it. So here we say hey, after a few seconds destroy it, so instance destroy, so it doesn't linger around as well. So bam, and then we need to have a target object. For now I set it to no one. This is a very specific keyword because here you have the ID, or you can say no one. So how can we actually do this? Well, we say hey, we do some dump AI. Actually I call it dump AI, yeah, sweet. And then we're saying hey, is there an object existing? So if instance X exists, and then we are checking hey, is there actually an enemy around, because this can throw errors because it's checking for something, and if it's not having something which to return, then well, it would break the game. This is a thing which is very important to understand, because if you're, for example, searching for something and that does not exist in the game currently, then this will break the game. So here are a few things to understand. So we're just checking hey, is there an enemy? Yep. So we're saying instance nearest, no. And here you need some inputs from where to check, so X and Y. And what do we want to check? Well, an enemy ship. And this thing will return the nearest instance. So basically, if you are having those instances, this one, and this one, it will check. And then it will say, hey, this one is the nearest, sweet, return it. So var nearest, I don't know, call it whatever you like. Once again, we save the nearest instance. So this is the ID of the nearest thing. And then what do we actually want to do? Well, we say, hey, our target object is not no one. Now it is our nearest, because let's say you are shooting multiple rockets and all of them are flying towards the nearest one, but let's say one has destroyed it, then it will be checking for something like but it is gone, and then it will recheck and say like, hey, this one is the nearest, so we go here. So here it is checking all the time, and then for example, if once is destroyed, it goes to the next one, because well, there are other ships around. And this is what we do. And for example, and this is the fail safe, which we're gonna do. Else, bam, and then we're just checking, hey, is there no nearest instance? Then we're just saying, hey, the nearest thing is no one. Again, this is just a failsafe. Doesn't really matter, you don't have to do this, but this is just a good practice. So you just resetting it, saying like, hey, there is no nearest thing around. And here for now we just established that this target object is something, and now we actually want to use it, because for now we're just detecting, hey, are there enemies? Cool, let's get me the nearest one and save it in a variable. This is it. This is just a failsafe later on if there, for example, for example, let's say you are destroying some enemies and then there's still a missile around, and then it says like, cool, I have the nearest one saved, but it doesn't exist anymore, no new one exists anymore, then it would break, and therefore you just go for else and set it to no one. And now we're actually doing some homing. This is the interesting part. So we are just doing a negative check. If we're saying, hey, no one, and this one just means hey. Normally you would say is something, like is it something, but this is something not. So if everything else is good, so if we're having a number, something in here which is not no one, then what do? Well, we go MP potential and then step. Which one did I use? I just go for step. And here we need to put in where we want to go. So X and Y are the positions where we want to go. So we go, hey, we want to go to the nearest enemy. No, X and Y. And what kind of speed do we want to have? I don't know. You can put in hard value if you like. I just have a variable which I call fly speed, so it is kind of slow. And then check all. You can ignore that. MP potential just is a little bit more powerful concerning where to go. This thing is updating and just guiding and putting a speed and a direction value automatically to our little rocket. So let's create our rocket in our player, which we already did. So this is sweet. Let's check it out if I didn't mess it up completely. Let's go. Are we creating something? Yes. And as you can see, these things are sticking around to the nearest enemy, but of course the nearest enemy, well, it's just, well, grabbing, then nothing is happening. But as you can see, already pretty cool, but it is not turning around. And this is of course a thing which we need to fix as well, because now it is just moving towards the player, so towards the nearest enemy. So what can we actually do? We just go, hey, in our rocket image hanger, and that is difficult to understand. Yeah, okay, this I need to explain a little bit further. This is not so easy. So here I have to get 2 points, and this is a little difficult to understand, because if you need an angle, you need kind of 2 points, which is which you're getting from point direction. So actually, let's make this one here. Let's make it at the first thing a little bit less complicated. So for example, point direction is giving you back an angle. You are having a 1 point and a second point, and it's just giving you the angle back. And this is basically the angle which you like. So between you, the rocket, this guy here, and then your target object. So this is what you can do. So let's fire out some rockets. Come on, come on. As you can see, now they are turning around correctly, but they are doing it extremely fast. I'm turning around as well. Yeah, not the best idea. Let's delete that. That was just funny, but no more. Go away. What you see, this already works, but maybe you want to have it turn it around a little bit slower. And this is what you can do, and this is of course a little extra, I would say. No worries, the whole project will be free on my Patreon, so you can access it, download it, do whatever you like with it. Everything is free. Of course, if you're using it, there will be some notes in here where it will say copyright, copyright. And if you are using the sprites which I used in here, because well, those artists just give them shout out if you use them. For example, if you actually did produce a game with it, then please use them. Of course, these sprites, most of them are CC0 or 3, so you don't really technically have to credit those guys, but it would be nice if you would do so. Of course, I will put that in later on, so I guess tonight it will be ready for everybody. And yeah, so just keep that in mind. This is just fair for the artist. For my part, the code is for free. Do whatever you like. You don't have to credit me if you don't want to. I don't mind. So let's go in here. And what do we do again? So here, once again, I'm using a lerp, but this time not between two x values or y values or whatever. I just say, hey, lerp between my original angle and then with a lower value to the point direction, which is giving instantly the correct angle. So we are lerping between the old angle and mine with a value of 0.2. And then, for example, what we do, we just say, hey, put it in here, or I don't know, do it like this. Actually, do it like this, so it looks cleaner. So once again, original image angle and the one which is correct, which is getting the one from the target. And for example, once I fired it out, you will see that they do turn around, but slower, which is looking kind of neat. As you can see, it looks already pretty nice. Yeah, that definitely looks pretty nice. But let's say, hey, I want my rocket to actually do something. So we actually do something. So we go for event, collision, and then I don't know, what do we have here? Object, enemy ship. And then, for example, once we are hitting it, instance destroy. So we are destroying those rockets once they are hitting the enemy ship, and then they are gone. But let's make it a little bit more spectacular. So let's go and give it an explosion. So let's go for instance not exist, create, and once again, and then the layer, and then I call it object explosion. And this one is extremely easy to use. So this object which I created here, I scaled it up. So once again, you don't have to do this. This isn't just an extra caveat. So image X scale and Y scale very quickly. So this has an image X scale and Y scale of 1. But for example, if you want to do something like this, you change the image X and Y scale proportionally, then you will do something like this. But for example, if you want to make it a fat one, you just change, I don't know, this is you just change the Y scale like this. These are the properties which are inside, and then I just say, hey, let's make it a little bit smaller because that explosion is quite huge. So if you go in here, it is 96, and then I don't know if you put in, yeah, this, for example, this is just a starting animation, and this is getting a little bit too big. Therefore, I just scaled it down. So of course, if you don't like this, you can actually go for edit image, for changing the size and make it smaller, but you would lose some of the pixel fidelity, which I don't want, and therefore it always makes sense to scale it up or down on the image X scale, and you don't lose any quality. So this is the difference. For example, if I would change it in here, then I would lose quality, but GameMaker Studio is interpolating and scaling things up, and then therefore it doesn't lose any fidelity, which is the interesting part here. So even though it is smaller than the original scale, so 0.4, so not even half, but it still looks crisp, which is the interesting part. And then I go animation end, which I did the last time for the shot. And then, for example, I'm saying like, hey, after the animation ended, bam, 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 you exploded. Well, delete yourself. And then we are here now, and then it does delete itself. So let's check it out. So here we are shooting, and then bam, 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 which is looking pretty neat. Of course, nothing is happening because, well, they just explode, and then we are pretty much done. But let's say you want to say, hey, this is cool, but if we are hitting the enemy, we want to destroy it. So how can we do this? Well, we go instance destroy as well, but we destroy the ID, but not our own, because this would destroy ourselves, which is well, double, which we don't need. We go for other, and this is a keyword which is very important to understand. If we are having a collision as an event here, then you have the keyword other dot, and then you connect to the thing which is the other thing, and then you destroy the other one. So for example, now what's happening, the rocket is destroying itself, and then once it's hitting, it is destroying, bam, as you can see, this one is gone, this one is gone, and now the rockets are destroying the enemy. So this is one of the things how you can actually access other instances. Of course, there are different ways how you can do that, and the normal way how you can access other things is through collisions. You can have that as an event or in the step event through here you access an other instance as well. And what else can we actually say? Because how long am I in? 1 hour 35. Wow, way too long already. So what can we do? So let's go, for example, for our enemy ship. A good practice is, for example, what you can do is have parents, and parents is a concept which is not too difficult. So let's say, for example, you are having, this is your parent, and for example you want to have that all your enemies, for example this one and this one, are inheriting your, this one is a little bit greenish, yeah, whatever. This is what parentage is. Basically you're having some values which are universal for this guy here. So he has some HP, and his children have HP as well. And this is what, for example, what you do. You have an abstract enemy parent which has, I don't know, an icon, or it doesn't really matter. And then, for example, you give it some values, and those values are getting passed into the children. So you have here events. So this is the standard events, where things which are around the object itself, or for example the parent, bam, and then you can give it to your children, and the children will inherit things. So for example, the enemy ship, it is inheriting lots of things. So I don't know, let's say for example your parent is let's give it an event, just so you can see, draw self, and then we go to one of the children. Then you will see, the white ones are your own events, and let's say this guy here is inherited, and the tooltip actually says object parent. So this is inheriting from it, and therefore it is passing in things. But let's say, but I want to have my own step and my own thing. No problem. Then you just go and create, I don't know, here your create event, your step and whatever, and then you override the one from the parent. But let's say you want to keep stuff from your parent, then there's a little thing which is called event inherited. It just means, hey, the events from your parent, you want to keep them, bam, inherited, and then, well, this thing is getting done first. So the stuff from the enemy parent is getting executed. So everything which you have in here is getting initialized first, and then your stuff later. And the same for the step event as well. And then, well, for example, what I did in our parent, it has some blinking animation, blinking with B, blinking animation. And this is the interesting part. It blinks when it's getting hit. But how can we actually do this? So let's say our enemy ship has some HP. Let's go for 3. Let's go for 5. And our rockets are not destroying the other ship, but they are subtracting the HP by 1. So we're not destroying it, we're just subtracting the HP. So we go other dot, so we're accessing the thing here which has HP. And 1 second. Sorry guys, couldn't stop that, but I didn't want to sneeze into the microphone. That would be very unpleasant for everybody. So once again, we are subtracting HP and saying like, hey, other hit is true. So don't worry about the code for now. I will just show what's happening. It's not hopefully too difficult to understand. So let's say we're hitting one enemy. Come on, come on. And it's doing jack shit. Doesn't want. Okay. Not sure what the deal is. Let's go into the parent. Should be actually blinking, but it's not. So let's check it out. As you can see now it works. Not sure why that was. As you can see now it is blinking. This is a thing to indicate to the player, hey, you're actually doing some damage to the other guy. And the setup is hopefully not too difficult to understand. So you're first of all saying like, hey, you are hitting something, so from another object. Then you're running down a timer, and then once the timer is 0, you say, hey, the hitting is over, and the timer for hitting is getting reset. And then, well, the image blend is 0. And image blending is something like this. You're having an image blend has normally C white, and what you can do is overcolor it, at least something like this. This is, for example, I don't know if I would go into red, C red or whatever. There are some colors where you can overlay it so it looks a little bit different. And then if you overlay it, you can use it as a blinking animation, because what I do, I'm having a second timer, which I'm calling blink timer. And then once again, once it's 0, then I reset it. And this timer is like every 8 steps. Go for the create event so you can actually see this. So the hit timer is 30 steps. So basically half a second you are being in the status of hit, but it doesn't really do anything. But you blink every 8 steps and then you reset the timer. And then in this blinking time, you're just checking, hey, what kind of image blend am I having? And you go for C white, which just means, hey, normal color, everything is the same. But then if we are having C white, then we go to red and back to red and white. So here these guys are just being swapped all the time. And then, for example, once the hit timer is down, so you're not hit anymore, then you reset it to the normal blend, and then, well, you can get hit again. So this is how it works in theory. So here, rockets, come on, come on, come on, bam, bam, bam. As you can see, it is blinking, I don't know how many times, 4 times, 3 times, a few times as it seems. So this is how the blinking works. What can I show you else? I'm having more of that stuff, but I'm not sure if I can go through the other concepts, because I actually wanted to go through here and show you how you can actually do with the boss and all that things, but as it seems I'm kind of running out of time. I don't know, I don't want to have the stream too long because I don't want to bore you guys to death. And well, here, little thing, this electric shot is kind of an interesting thing because let's go. What is this? So basically this electric shot is just one image. Bam, 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 bam. And it is getting repeated. So we go for canvas size, I don't know, 60. And what I'm just doing, I'm just taking a second one and the next one and just combining them. Then you, I don't know, you do that 16 times, 20 times, and then you create this nice wave. But for now, this would look a little bit static. So what I do, I just go and change the image X scale, so flip vertically, as you can see, and then I do something like this. Oh, so this is the idea behind it. And how can I do it? I basically say, hey, I go into make a little for loop. So for loops, a little bit difficult to understand for beginners. So this is just basically saying like, hey, do it 15 times. So, and then draw a thing, draw the next one plus the I value, because the I value is getting iterated upwards to 1. So the first one is at 0, then at 20, then at 40, then at 60, then at 80, and so on, 15 times. And then normally I would just draw it, but then I'm having a little variable which I'm calling swap Y scale, and that thing is getting just changed from -1 to 1 all the time. Actually, let's make it even easier. -1. So what I'm doing, I'm just having an alarm with a swap time of 5. So this will be 6 times per second will be swapped. So this is an alarm, and then once the alarm hits, I reset the alarm and loop it. So every swap time this had a value of 5. So I actually put in 5, doesn't really matter. And then I'm just swapping that between -1 and 1, -1 and 1, and so on. And then you're having this electric beam, which you cannot see because I didn't put it into the room because it's stuck to the first player. And this thing looks pretty cool, but it has some caveat because you are drawing that thing, but you're not hitting with it, because here you need to have a hitbox. And as you can see, it looks pretty cool. So this is how you can, I don't know, make some lasers or whatever, because what you're seeing on the screen is basically that one thing just being repeated like 15 times, and then I'm just swapping the Y scale like, and this is how it's creating this kind of electric cool looking effect. And if you do it quite fast, it appears to be looking pretty neat. So actually draw, so here for example, I don't know, you can go for 1, then now it is not animating. So this is how it actually looks like. So I'm just drawing that thing 15 times, but if I change that thing with an alarm constantly by -1, or basically, I don't know, if you want to have it like this, then times -1, then it will all the time change its value, because at the start it's 1, and then it's -1, 1, -1, 1. And if, for example, if you multiply something by -1, then you will always get, I don't know, the opposite value, which is kind of cool. This is how that thing works in theory, and in practice actually as well. So here, cool little animation, but for now it is just drawing and nothing is happening. and for that you need an extra hitbox. So besides here this guy being repeated quite a few times, what you need to have is an extra box, which you call, I don't know, hitbox or whatever, like, and you need to overlay it, and then it is hitting well, enemies. And here this, I cannot do this because this is getting a little bit too difficult. Don't want to iterate on it, so I guess I'm gonna close the stream for now. I will have a little bit more refined version for the download, so you can see what you can actually do. There will be what I actually promised to do, and I did do in the stream. There will be a full level like this, and the second one at the end you will get a boss. Then once you beat the boss, there will be tons of explosions like on around. Then you will transition to the second room, and what you will see, what somebody wanted to have is a segmented enemy. So basically one enemy which is having parts of it, and then these parts are following, I don't know, like a snake. So here, and then you will see a boss like this, because hey, why not? This is pretty cool. And what I wanted to do is, and this is a thing which I'm gonna incorporate as well. So first of all, enemies which are like this, so they fly. Then enemies on the bottom which will be just shooting upwards. Then a fat enemy which is, where do I have you? So this dude here, which is actually shooting at the player, and it will rotate this cannon towards it. So this will be a segmented enemy as well, which is one, just its body, which you can shoot, and then a second part which is being drawn on it, which is the torrent, and then the torrent will turn around towards the player and shoot once or twice or whatever, and then, well, it will blink because all the enemies are blinking. So this will be part of it, and then I will have a ring, which I saw in R-Type, which is pretty cool. So this will be a ring of enemies which you cannot destroy, and they will just turn around, and then in this opening you can you need to go in, and so on. And then I saw a huge enemy which is going in like a huge battleship, and then it has turrets attached to it, so little ones, and you can destroy them. This will be part of the finished version here, so this is just a teaser for you guys, but if you want to delve a little bit deeper in it, I will have this refined version, I don't know, in a few hours, but because now it's quite late, I want to eat and do some sports for now. You will have this ready as a support, not as a on Patreon, as a full project, so you can enjoy and do whatever you like with it. And I guess with a pickup, so you can have different kind of weapons, because for now that was neat, but it was lacking some refinement. Hopefully that was something you were looking for, and you found a few of your answers in here. I know it's a little bit difficult to make games complete, and as you can see, 2 hours, and we just have like one dude shooting and these guys floating around. But this is game development, always takes a little bit more time than expected, definitely more than expected. And for the other guys, Udemy course coming in, game on Steam. I'm having troubles with my API, which is a pain in the ass. So I actually wanted to release the game, I don't know, 1 week ago, 1.5, and I got really stuck on that one. So yay. Oh well, this is the way it is, and hopefully I will fix it. Of course I will fix it, but the question is just when. So hopefully you guys, once again, if there's somebody watching, you enjoyed this, and see you in the next video or stream. Bye bye.